The archetype of the strong, brave, confident, and stoic man has long lived within the cultural consciousness as the peak male form. According to society, a man is maximizing his potential if he embodies these qualities. Maximizing potential is essentially the basis of gender roles in society. Big, strong men get the more physically intense jobs, and the nurturing and compassionate women get the caretaking jobs. For a period, this seemed to work-ish. But as the means of production continuously evolves, it would only make sense that we continuously reevaluate what is actually useful. As women continue to gain more economic power and agency, we now find ourselves in a state of cultural confusion around gender roles. In particular, the role of men, and what exactly the unique value proposition of men is even supposed to be. Some people believe that things were fine and dandy the way they were when gender roles were more rigid and clear. A notion which evidently isn't true, because we wouldn't be having this discussion if enough people weren't saying that it's in fact not fine and dandy. So I think it's fair to stop and ask, in a world of increasing automation and economic equality amongst the sexes, are gender roles even useful? And if not, what does it even mean to be masculine? There's an ongoing debate about whether gender roles are ultimately driven by biological traits or by cultural influence. Men and women have plenty of physical and neurological differences, so it seems likely that biological disparities must play some role in our productivity, but how much does it matter, really? While the physical differences between men and women are pretty obvious, machines are now doing most of the heavy lifting for us, and I think that it's safe to say that, eventually, they'll pretty much be doing all of the heavy lifting. When it comes to neurological differences, there's so much variance from person to person that, once you factor in environmental influence, you can't really predetermine one's ability to perform mental tasks based on sex alone. There are enough women who possess more masculine qualities, and enough men who possess more feminine qualities to kind of make it a needless exercise to put everyone into one of two boxes. Our earliest communities seem to agree with this sentiment. We all know that we began as nomadic hunters and gatherers, and we just sort of broadly assume that men must have been the hunters and women must have been the gatherers. But this isn't entirely accurate. Fossil records and archaeological findings actually suggest that our earliest communities were more egalitarian, with roles being shared between both sexes as well as a less rigid hierarchy. After all, if you're strong enough to pick up a spear, you're strong enough to hunt. A successful hunt doesn't require you to bench press your kill. It's likely that gender roles didn't really develop until the agricultural revolution, where moving plows required a power advantage, making a clear division of labor an absolute necessity. But it also created a dynamic where men were outside, doing outside things, giving them all the space in the world to explore and build, civilization, whereas women were relegated to their small bubble. And men took advantage of that leverage to create patriarchal religions to secure their power over women by requiring them to submit to their husbands. To quote the scripture,
"As the heavy timber yieldeth only to him of max level frame, so the household boweth to the grindset of the plowman." Cope.
It wasn't until the Great Wars, when women were pushed into the workforce out of necessity, that we finally began to challenge our antiquated beliefs about gender. Women were becoming more confident in their abilities, which in all likelihood left a lot of men feeling insecure. And I think we're at a point now where women's confidence has been on a steady rise, while men's confidence has been on a steady downfall. Having been kept in a box all throughout civilization, women now want to be free to explore all facets of the human experience that they've been missing out on. What women want is all the things, and what men want is, well, women.
Hooray!
It used to be that men would attract women by offering a clear value proposition. I can provide for you, I can protect you, and obviously I can procreate with you. But as women are becoming increasingly self-sufficient, these male offerings may begin to feel like less of a necessity and more of a luxury, with only the most exceptional men possessing the necessary qualifications to be worthy of a woman's affection. Many modern women seem comfortable with setting higher standards for themselves and adjusting to the idea that they don't really need a man in order to live a peaceful and fulfilling life. While there are some men who are also capable of accepting or embracing the single life, in general, I think it's a more difficult transition for them. Historically, the male conquest has been largely driven by the goal of attracting a mate or many mates. But the new female conquest is largely driven by the goal of breaking free of male dependence. It would seem, at this moment, that men might need women more than women need men. And so, what are men to do from here? They could just do whatever the hell they want to do, be their best selves, and find contentment and satisfaction in other areas of life, making the proposition of landing a mate added value rather than a necessity. They could try to be everything, not because they want that for themselves, but because they want women to like them. But if that fails, it can often lead to more internal confusion and a road to resentment. Some choose to live with that resentment and hold women accountable for their own deficiencies. Others choose to live with that resentment and overcompensate for their deficiencies by beating their chest and proclaiming superiority. The question is, what is actually useful? I think that the answer to that question should stem from a rational place and a sincere aspiration to make things better for everyone. But when it comes to toxic masculinity, it originates from a place of deep insecurity, and that's just not a good launching pad for a productive conversation. Their platform really has nothing to do with biological disparities in men and women. It's just insecurity. It's worth taking a beat to define toxic masculinity, since, for whatever reason, there still seems to be some confusion around what it actually means. Toxic masculinity does not imply that masculinity is inherently toxic. Toxic masculinity is when insecure men weaponize masculine traits in order to feel more in control, and thus, more manly. In other words, if you hurt someone or advocate for hurting someone because it makes you feel like more of a man, congratulations, you are toxic. These are men who feel marginalized in a free-thinking society that is moving forward without them, and they just don't have the emotional intelligence to deal with their frustrations. These are men who feel threatened and afraid of their weakness being discovered. In order to avoid this embarrassment, they preemptively go on the attack, using their manhood as a weapon in a show of strength. This display of supercharged machismo is intended to intimidate and strong-arm normal, less ridiculous people into submission. But in the modern world, this projection can be easily countered and diffused with any number of sensible solutions. If we're talking survival of the fittest, over time, men have evolved to have smaller muscles, better emotional regulation, less testosterone, and bigger brains because these traits are more useful to our survival. Assuming that trajectory continues, the ideal male of the future will look nothing like the so-called alpha male of today. Being big and tough is becoming less and less useful in a world of growing automation. Being stoic in a world of brain-scrambling information overload is a fast track to mental derangement. And sure, as a man, you can strive to be a brave protector, you can strive to be a strong, confident leader, but so can women. If we want to define masculinity, I can only think of one virtue that is exclusive to the male sex. Just don't be a threat to women. Historically, men's advantage in muscle strength and social hierarchy has been exploited to control women. To protect themselves, women kind of have to keep their guard up. So, as a man, just make it a point to make women feel safe around you. That, to me, is all that masculinity really is. It doesn't mean that you should be expected to put yourself in danger and act as a human meat shield for any woman in peril. It just means that, as a man, making an effort to make women feel safe would be a virtuous thing to do. That could come from providing humor, being a good listener, being a reliable ally, being transparent and honest, or simply backing the fuck off.
No, I'm sorry.
Anything to signal, I am not a threat. If you can do any of that with confidence, wow, look at you, you're such a manly man. Other than that, just stop giving a shit. Know who you are and where you stand. Be independent and pursue your own peace. A truly confident man doesn't need to project an image of masculinity because they are secure with themselves, and they don't need external validation to confirm their manliness. As times change and we continue to reevaluate social norms and expectations, the transition will bring a lot of questions and confusion. And I think, as men, we should recognize that this social confusion may be at the root of our frustrations and feelings of inadequacy. If we can acknowledge this, we can avoid placing all of the burden on ourselves to conform to uncertain standards and, instead, define what standards we want for ourselves. Hopefully, as women continue to liberate themselves from needless gender criteria and artifacts from the past, men can begin to do the same, and we can get to a point where both men and women can be free to explore the full spectrum of human experience.